Saint Francis of Assisi is one of the most loved saints in history, known for his humility, his love of nature, and his deep peace of heart. Among the many stories told about his life, one stands out as both dramatic and deeply symbolic: the story of the Wolf of Gubbio. This episode shows not only the courage of Francis, but also his ability to bring peace where fear and violence ruled. The city of Gubbio, in Italy, was living in terror. A huge wolf had appeared in the countryside, attacking animals, destroying flocks, and even killing people. The townspeople were afraid to leave their homes, and the entire region felt under siege. Hunters tried to kill the wolf, but none succeeded. The fear grew so great that people began to despair, believing nothing could be done. It was at this time that Francis arrived in Gubbio. The people, knowing his reputation as a man of holiness, begged him to help. Francis listened carefully to their cries and, instead of planning an attack on the wolf, he decided to meet it face to face. His companions were terrified at the idea, but Francis had no fear. His trust was not in his own strength, but in God, who made all creatures. Francis walked calmly to the woods where the wolf lived. When he entered the forest, the wolf suddenly appeared, enormous and fierce, rushing toward him with open jaws. Everyone watching from a distance thought this was the end of Francis. But he stood still, lifted his hand, and made the sign of the cross. Then he spoke with gentleness, saying, "Brother Wolf, I order you in the name of Christ, do no harm to me or to anyone." To everyone's amazement, the wolf stopped. Instead of attacking, it closed its mouth, lowered its head, and came slowly toward Francis, like a tame animal. Francis continued to speak, telling the wolf that he had caused great suffering, killing both animals and men, and that the people hated and feared him. But Francis did not condemn the wolf with anger. Instead, he said, "Brother Wolf, I know you did this because of hunger. I want to make peace between you and the people, so that you no longer harm them, and they will forgive you and feed you." The wolf, as if understanding every word, bowed its head and placed its paw in Francis's hand, a gesture of agreement and trust. Francis then brought the wolf back to the city of Gubbio. The people were terrified at first, but Francis called them together in the town square and explained the new pact. He told them that the wolf would no longer harm anyone, but in return, the people must take responsibility for feeding the animals, and that hunger would not drive it back to violence. The people, still astonished, agreed. From that day forward, the wolf lived peacefully in Gubbio. It walked through the streets like a tame dog, receiving food from the townspeople, and never again attacked man or beast. The wolf became a living sign of peace and reconciliation, a reminder of the power of faith and compassion. This story is not only about an animal, it reveals a deep truth about human life. The wolf represents fear, violence, and the wild parts of our world and even our hearts. Francis did not fight violence with violence. He approached with peace, with the sign of the cross, and with words of understanding. He acknowledged the wolf's hunger, its need, and offered a way of reconciliation. In the same way, we are often faced with people or situations that seem wild, destructive, or impossible to change. Francis shows us that with faith, courage, and compassion, even the fiercest wolf can be transformed into a brother. The wolf of Gubbio lived for 2 years in peace until it died of old age. When it died, the townspeople mourned sincerely because they had grown to love the animal that once terrified them. The wolf had become a symbol of God's peace, brought about by the courage of a man who trusted not in weapons, but in the power of Christ. This miracle invites us to reflect. How do we face the wolves in our own lives? Do we respond with fear and aggression, or do we try to bring peace through faith and understanding? The example of Francis is not easy, but it is powerful. He reminds us that peace is possible, even where it seems impossible. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear a message of peace and hope. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and turn on the notification bell so you can continue to discover more inspiring stories of saints and miracles that still speak to us today.